There is one host and 7 participants in this conference.
7 on the phone lines and only 2 of us here. I think the class is about over anyway. We're running out of people, but we've also run out of material. We've done the nature of God, and we've done the nature of error, and we've done the nature of prayer, and we did Ho'oponopono, and we've done supply. And today we'll talk about the healing ministry, and that pretty well covers all the principles of the infinite way. So well, let's do this work on healing first, and then we'll talk at the start of the second hour about where to go from here and anywhere. I'm interested in that. The healing work is very strange to me because it's something that we've been focused on here at Leelaa for 20 years. We were doing Herb Fitch's healing classes 15 years ago, listening to them, and doing Meg's work and doing all sorts of work, and it's always been important. I've always thought that was an important part of this kind of work, because the healing is the proof that the principles are true. When there is healing, good, reliable, practitioner-style healing, it demonstrates that the previous thing that I just mentioned, the nature of God, nature of error, nature of prayer, all that is true, and that it works and that it's practical. But but quite frankly, we have not had a demonstration of any sort of successful, solid demonstration of healing around here. By that I mean there's no one in this group that I know of, in our group especially, and we've been doing the work, many of us, for 15 or 20 years, that have anything like a healing practice. If I were to try to make a living as a practitioner, I'd starve. We have sometimes positive results, but not with the kind of frequency that demonstrates it as a principle. When I work with people, they seem to always get lifted. Everybody seems to feel better after we work together, and their vibration rises. They get lifted. That seems to be consistent, but physical problems don't seem to go away with any reliability. I have people that call me regularly, and they keep calling, so I assume that there's some benefit in the calling, and I enjoy that, and I especially appreciate it because it brings me to doing the work regularly, but they keep calling. And I myself have been through 2 rather serious physical problems, one a couple of 3 years ago, that resulted in hospitalization and radiation and chemo treatment, and I called a number of Infinite Way practitioners, the ones I knew of that had any sort of reputations, to get help with that, and did not get it. And then last year I had difficulty with my wrist, which and in both cases now I've stood on truth and done my meditation, and my meditation has been increased a lot, and I stand on truth, and I don't see the fruitage of it. This last year I had the same thing, and once again I wound up doing chemo and doing radiation for 33 days, and that resolved at 95%, but I'm going back in again tomorrow to get set up for another radiation process that's going to go on for the next couple of weeks. And so once again, I'm, and it's not surprising, but I'm certainly unable, physician heal thyself is not something that's happening around here. And nobody that I've called, which includes some renowned practitioners, have been able to give me any help. And so I wonder, what is going on? And yet I remain absolutely convinced that the principles, and I'm told from within, in a sense that I can't doubt, that the principles of the infinite way are true and valid and real. And I do believe that, the fact that the infinite way grew from Joel talking to a few people, and Joel's practitioner work, and he was a healer. The infinite way went from that to 70,000 students on 6 continents and 12 worldwide trips and 1,200 class tapes and people traveling around the world to go to his classes and such like, and all of this was done with no advertising and no financial support, and nobody, he didn't have an angel or anybody backing him up, and that's a clear demonstration of the principles, as is the fact that he could give class after class after class for 15 or 20 years, and always new fresh material appearing out of his mouth. Joel is a very clear demonstration that the principles work. So I find myself right in the middle of wanting to understand healing at a deeper level and wanting to bring it to the level where we can demonstrate it here. And I think that's sort of what my work is all about. And it needn't be your people's work, but that also is the work that will yield, that is what world work is all about, and what working in the silence is all about. And if we do want to help, so to speak, mankind, it's best done through developing a healing consciousness, I think. And I continue to have complete faith that the healing principles that Joel offers are valid. His success story is incredible. He had, sometimes 135 patients a day, and used to have a success rate of his healing like 80%. And he brought babies that were born with Down syndrome or things like that, and they recovered. He grew arms and limbs back on the thalidomide babies back when that was happening. He healed anything. So it's all there, and I'm continually brought back to confront the fact that the reason we don't see it around here is that I haven't attained a sufficiently high altitude of consciousness to lift people into seeing the truth. So that's why I'm so happy when people do call me regularly, because every time they call I get to do some work, and that's good for me. I'm hopefully developing a consciousness. But in any event, my focus has always been about the revealing practice. That's what I seem to be led to be doing, and it's always been my focus. So let's talk briefly about what I do know about, or what I do think I know about healing, and then let's see if we can find how many want to continue down what path, and if we can find some way that we think will allow us to make progress on that path and decide what we want to do about it, because I would very much like to see demonstrable healing, and I don't see it. Christian Science practice, I don't see it in Christian Science. I don't see it in the practitioners in the religious science church. I don't know of a single practitioner that has a 50% healing rate. So what's going on? So let's begin today by hearing what I do think I know about healing, and we can examine it and use it as a starting place and get feedback from you people and questions and explore it and see where we're led. And I'm just hoping like hell that we'll be led as we proceed down this path to take the next step. So the first thing I want to say about healing is there is no such thing. It should be called revealing. Physical problem, and I'm going to talk as if we're talking about physical problems like diseases, tuberculosis or cancer or what have you. The basic premise of infinite way teaching and of infinite way principles is that there is no such thing as a diseased human being. Although we certainly do see the appearance of it in diseased human beings, thanks to Chubb, thanks to collective human belief. And the nature of God is that there is nothing but God, and that God is every individual being, especially including you and me, and that God is harmonious and whole and fulfilled and complete and done and blissful in every aspect right now. So if we take that as truth, which is what the previous classes and the principles have been about, then there is nothing here but spiritual beings that are harmonious and happy and fulfilled and such like, and we're seeing something other than that because of the nature of error. And what we call healing is the next thing. The first step in Joel talks about in healing work is you forget the client or the person who comes to you, and you forget the disease or the problem. You get those out of your consciousness and go within and work on realizing the nature of God. Work on reciting the truth that you know to yourself, and hopefully more and more will be given to you as you're doing this work. And in other words, we do this work by treating ourselves in such a way as to raise our altitude, to raise our vibrational rate. I guess those words are the same thing. Raise our altitude to the height where anybody who is tuned into us will be lifted up. And when they are lifted into a higher consciousness, a high enough consciousness to see the truth, then they can no longer see the problem. And the problem essentially is dissolved. And the truth that was always true about the individual is revealed. So we have a revealing ministry, not a healing ministry. Nothing is healed. What's happening is the truth about the situation is being revealed to the person. As I understand it, due to the practitioners treating him or herself until the sufficient altitude is attained, that the person who has aligned themselves with the practitioner is lifted as well, and now sees the truth. And Joel says that this dissolving of the apparent anomaly may be instantaneous, or it may take place over a period of time. But that's the process as I understand it. And he talks about, I guess, 3 important steps in infinite way healing. And the first step is realizing that only God is power. There's only one power. Nothing else in existence has power. And this is necessarily true because there is nothing in existence that is not God. So how could there be anything in existence other than God that has power? So there is no power anywhere other than God. So that's the first principle. And the second principle he always talks about is impersonalizing, which is to say that whatever the affliction is, or the lack, or the psychological problem, or whatever the affliction of any sort is, or appears to be, it is not yours, you the client. It is not the client's. It is not of them. It is not them that is producing it, or causing it, or has anything to do with it, except that they were susceptible to it. The appearance is entirely due to collective human belief, Chubb, and the deep conditioning that all of society has today into believing Chubb, so that we're actually looking for what Chubb believes, and because believing is seeing, we're seeing it. So there's a huge bunch of Chubb that's believing in cancer, and my wrist looks like it has cancer, and there's a huge chunk of Chubb that believes in MS, so people have MS, and there's a huge chunk of Chubb that believes in, well, pick any disease you want, flu or anything at all, and people who are susceptible to that vibration, some of them statistically see it and manifest it in their lives. So the second step is impersonalization, because it's not your problem, it's Chubb's problem, and therefore I've separated the problem from you. The practitioner has separated the problem from you and essentially removed you. It has aided the process of removing you from susceptibility to Chubb. And the third step is nothingization. Love that word, nothingize, which means that based on the first principle, since it's all just Chubb, it's all just Chubb belief, and there's no power in Chubb, and so it has no power. There's no power that's causing let's take cancer. There's no problem. There's no power anywhere that's causing cancer, and there's no power anywhere that can sustain it. So these are the steps that we've been hearing over the past few weeks in the 59 work that describe the infinite way healing process, which I'm now going to call the infinite way revealing process. The reason the client gets the relief when you drop the client from your mind, and drop the disease from your mind so that you're no longer in human consciousness. Nonetheless, your client is the one that gets the relief, assuming you can attain the sufficient altitude, and the reason that happens is because they have attuned themselves to you by coming to you and asking for a healing, or a revealing, we should say. And it's interesting that whoever you turn your consciousness over to is going to have the effect of, is going to be able to affect your consciousness and your experience. So the process is really that simple, and what I see is well, I suspect it's a lot more difficult now because there are so many more people, and the intensity of the of the Chubb beliefs is so much higher right now that I suspect that it's a lot higher. It may be that we have to gain more altitude in order to have a successful healing process like Joel had. But it may also just be simply that we're not doing enough work. I've become impressed over the past 3 or 4 weeks. I keep getting nudged about, how little work we really do. Joel really means that we need to constantly and continually have thoughts of God, of the nature of God going through our mind. That's what he means by keeping your mind stayed on God. And he talks about, coming back at least once an hour to remember the nature of God, but I don't find that once an hour is sufficient. It doesn't seem to change the effect this process is having on the people that are calling me. So I think it's a matter of being full-time aware of the presence of God to some extent. And Joel does say that he always has some little part in the back of his head, 10 or 15% of him, that's consciously aware of the presence of God. And so that's what I understand about it, or where my understanding is at now, and I'm pretty sure that if something about what I've just said were not true, that I would have been told internally that it wasn't. And I'm pretty sure that if there were more I needed to add, that I would have been told internally, given direction at least internally. So my sense is that that's probably the complete story, and that it's just not been realized enough here, and personally by me. I haven't realized it sufficiently to realize the fruitage of it to the extent that I would like to see it. And you see, right there is my basic problem when I said to the extent that I would like to see it. And that shows you the extent to which I am caught up in the material scene and the human scene, because, if I truly believed and knew and could realize that everybody was in fact God and already harmonious and complete and fulfilled and everything like that, then there would be nothing in me that wanted to see anything. The fact that I want to see a change, that we want, he keeps pointing out that we shouldn't, watch the fever after we have done a treatment on ourselves, or keep looking for the effects of it. But it's very difficult not to do that in your own case, and it's very difficult not to do that with people that are calling for you. I would like to see progress. I would like to see relief. So that shows the extent to which I don't have the altitude to be a revealing consciousness. Shows the extent to which I need to do more work. Let's see, some notes did come through during the past 3 or 4 weeks that about revealing, but I guess there's only a couple of them that are worth talking about. One is that it's only in humanhood that we need health, or need better health. So if you're looking for health, or if you're looking for supply, or if you're looking for anything, it's an indication that you're in humanhood. And that's what I just said, that when I'm looking, wanting to see results, wanting to see fruitage, specific fruitage, I just heard, then I'm in humanhood. That's interesting. If I want to see fruitage in general, then that would be entirely different than if I'm looking for specific fruitage. If I want to see somebody healed, I'm caught up in the problem. But if I want to see the well-beingness of the entire community raised due to the realization of the presence of God, then that would not be amiss. That would be looking for that would be observing the correct sort of fruitage if I'm observing that people are having fuller and more harmonious lives. And I do see that in people in all the class. I hear in your sharing that many of you are having much higher experiences than we were having a while ago. I also hear in our sharing, some of you share once in a while stuff that clearly shows the healing consciousness, a revealing consciousness is being developed, because some of you have shared about going within and changing your attitude and seeing the picture change, and that's the whole story of the revealing consciousness. It says, every prayer for treatment that seeks to demonstrate health must fail. There's no health separate and apart from the consciousness of an individual. And that means that if your health is to be changed, it must be changed because your consciousness has changed, which means that either you have done so through treatment on yourself, you've raised your level to where your consciousness has changed, or you've been lifted by a practitioner. But the consciousness of the individual has to change if the health is to change, or supply, or anything else. And one little note I got there is that God does not deteriorate with time, so we can stop giving the calendar any power, as Joel would say. Let's see what else.